If you are in the tabletop RPG community, you are probably aware of the OGL debacle that caused some of the D&D players to look for alternatives. While the majority seem to be attracted to Pathfinder 2e or OSR, I would like to present another option, GURPS, because maybe you want to try something different. So here are 8 reasons to try GURPS. 1. GURPS is not constrained by classes and levels. I am a long-time D&D player, so I know what it's like to come up with a character concept and only then realize that I have to, for example, take levels in 3 different classes and then enter a prestige class at level 12. While I did find the character creation minigame fun, I find character creation in GURPS even more fun. When there are no systematic constraints, and you are only limited by what's appropriate in the game your GM is running, character creation is easier and more rewarding. The downside is that it can be quite front-loaded, but it doesn't have to. As a D&D GM, I loved reading all the D&D books. When you read a D&D book, your mind always concocts various situations, encounters, plot lines, or ways to weave something into the world. Then you realize that it's all very gamified. As soon as you reach a certain level, hordes of orcs stop being a threat, taking on a dragon stops being an undertaking that requires careful planning and a lot of resources, various minor abilities become useless, and the world suddenly feels much less magical, evocative, and believable. GURPS, being a skill-based system, does not have levels, which really helps making the world feel more real. 2. GURPS is not abstract. If you think that D&D 5e is too detailed, then GURPS definitely is not for you. But if you are looking to step away from the abstractions, to think about what your character just did behind what could have been a vague attack, spell, or ability description, then you are going to have a blast. There are no more situations when you declare a full attack and the GM describes it as your character jumping into the air to deliver a powerful slash with a sword, then land and do a roundhouse kick to the face of another enemy. In GURPS, you actually do all that. They are not just descriptions. This makes everything, not only combat, feel much more real, visceral, and exciting. Honestly, I have never had as much fun in combat as I am having in GURPS. GURPS uses concrete units of measurement, yards, feet, seconds, pounds, which makes it easy to translate any real-world action into the game. If there is something you can do in real life, you can do it in GURPS too. What I like to say is that GURPS makes sense. However, contrary to the popular belief, GURPS is not a reality simulator. Do not mistake realism for being grounded in reality. These are two different things. 3. GURPS is personalized. I could have said that GURPS is flexible or generic, and that would be true. But I think that personalized is another very appropriate word. As a GM, it encourages you to think about the game and the setting. What tone are you looking for? What power level are you looking for? What do you want in your game and what do you not want in your game, and why? The modular toolkit nature of GURPS means that nobody really is playing the same way, even if genres are the same. Every GURPS game is different as every GM works to make it a perfect fit for himself and his group. Some might see that in a negative light, but I think this is great. GURPS allowed me to craft my perfect vision of D&D that D&D itself did not allow me to do. While in D&D trying to fix the system, most of the time feels like you're trying to put a round peg into a square hole. In GURPS it feels natural. The books themselves encourage you to do that and tell you how to do it. Some might see that as work, but I find it enjoyable. 4. Books are well researched. GURPS books have a reputation of being well researched. They in no way read like textbooks. I have read many GURPS books from start to finish without ever getting bored. I learned a lot of new stuff thanks to them, and many of them are useful in other TTRPG systems. 5. Your D&D books are not useless. One of my favorite parts of GURPS is just how easy it is to adapt content from other systems. And even if you're not interested in the content, you can just use the lore. I still have a large library of D&D and Pathfinder books of all editions, and I use them in my GURPS games, and it feels natural. If you play GURPS, then any book release for any other system is also a GURPS book release in a sense. 6. GURPS is simple. Finally, I have to say that despite everything I have said before, GURPS is simple. But I should say that it's simple during the game, because, for example, adjusting the system for your personal requirements, designing content, balancing it, choosing the right options might take some time and work, and it has a learning curve. But once the game is running, it's just rolling 3d6 and comparing it to some number. That's simple, right? 7. A lot of helpful material for new players. If you're getting into the system now, then you are in luck. It might have been more difficult before, but nowadays you have a lot of great material and guides on how to get started. Aside from what you can find on my channel, there is a great series of video tutorials by Chris Normand. I will link his playlist in the description. And if you do not want to do any work and want a D&D experience, you might want to check out Dungeon Fantasy RPG, a pre-packaged GURPS-based game with only the parts you need and without anything else. But as always in GURPS, there are many ways to skin a cat, so that's definitely not the only way to do things. 8. Excellent VTT support. Many players play tabletop RPGs nowadays only online, and GURPS has excellent VTT support. I am speaking of course about Foundry and its fan-made GURPS module. Chris Normand has a series of video tutorials on how things work there. If you are not using Foundry, then Roll20 works well too. Anything does, as long as it has hex grid support. And that's it. GURPS does have a reputation of being so impenetrable that you must find some GURPS guru to teach you, but that's simply not true. Just read the book and you're going to be fine. GURPS requires you to read quite a lot, especially as a GM, and if reading is not your forte, then GURPS probably is not a good choice for you. It also requires the GM to do some work, so be prepared for that. But if you are not intimidated by that, I am sure that you will be able to make a game that is perfect for you and your players, and you will undoubtedly get a lot of enjoyment from it. Unfortunately, there is nothing like GURPS SRD, but at least the character generation is easy thanks to GCS. If you see people recommend you to start with GURPS Lite, don't listen to them. It's a bad book that does not have anything that makes GURPS GURPS. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.